Okay, yeah. Thanks, Israel. We will record the session. The main reason why we are here is about seeing from the data team side. Just want to give a brief introduction. Actually, this is the original issue. And here, they are talking about automated service ping along with cell 0.1. Also, I'll provide more context in agenda if someone is interested to read more about cell 1.0. But the long story short is about automated service ping impact based on cell 1.0. What we have here and what I want with you to discuss is about the impact on instance SQL metrics, Redis metrics, and namespace metrics. Before that, they leave two questions here, like automated service ping request Redis HHL metrics through the endpoint. I think nothing's going to change. Data from other cells will not be included. And the second one is the cell can run different versions of the software. This is digested in 3 parts here for us. Regarding the Redis metrics, usually we receive everything. Sorry, I forgot to share my screen. It will be easier for all of us to track it. Regarding the Redis metrics, we just receive already to each JSON key value pairs, and as per change from the source side, we should align our logic. For SQL metrics and namespace metrics, it's up to us because actually we execute the SQLs on Snowflake and then save results, and downstream modeling will extract this data. Also, I touched this point with Ved regarding the cell and how things should be impacted in cell version 1. It means probably 2 cells will be integrated into one pipeline. So Ved, please give us more context regarding these, just to be sure I understand it properly. I didn't miss something.
Yeah. So for cell 1.0, we haven't, it's just the initial design discussion, design thought that how we will be implementing it. But we will be getting an additional database for main and CI, or we can get one database collectively, one for main and CI database. So we are right now extracting data from one of the instances from main and CI database, that is basically one. And in the future for cell 1.0, we'll be extracting it from one of the other. Pipeline will remain the same, in the sense that we will be doing some scale up in our pipeline. But for cell 1.0, we will be extracting this at the same point of time data from both the databases. That is cell 1, which is the current legacy monolithic database main and CI, and from the cell 2, which comes as the new one when they onboard the new clients over there. We had a major concern in terms of the pipeline concern. I'm leaving it outside because that's not part of the topic, but we had major concern about the uniqueness of the key across both databases. So how they're gonna manage that the same user ID is not present in cell 1 and the same user ID is not present in cell 2. Because if that was the case, then we had a major issue because we need to run some consolidation even before the data lands into Snowflake to generate a unique key to identify it. But for cell 1.0, what they have said that they have reserved the slot of primary keys in main database and they have given it to cell 2. So they will not have a unique key issue coming across 2 different databases. So we'll still have unique records flowing from both of the databases. So that will be happening. So that consolidation is happening at GitLab.com DB itself as part of cell 1.0. And that do not impact the data what we receive. For us, it will look like for the Snowflake raw layer, it will be just like the data coming from just coming in as normal. Whereas for the pipeline, it will be running the same query against 2 different tables to pull the data. We are not introducing any static column like tenant ID at this point of time unless a requirement comes in that we want to know that this record is coming from cell 1 or this record is coming from cell 2. Then that will be something where we have to introduce something called tenant ID or some additional column, metadata column, which helps us to identify the rows. But for now, for cell 1.0, at this point of time, there will be no change in raw layer and the downstream. So we will be getting data from 2 different sources, but 2 different databases, but the source, the data structure in all of these databases are supposed to be same. So there will be no DB structure difference between cell 1 and cell 2 or cell 3. The idea is it will be always the same. So they will be not having a different metadata or database or data structure schema present in Postgres database. So that will still remains the same. That's being told for cell 1.0 at this point of time.
Yeah, that's a good news, I would say, right? Because in that case, we will avoid the biggest problem with duplicate data or something, because you can imagine we have a lot of the duplication layer. I mean, complete the duplication layer for Postgres pipeline, and it can be a mess in case you miss something. Plus, you will not have track the information from which actually tenant you bring that information in, right?
Yeah, at this point of time, we are not bringing that value because the team have told that they are ensuring that they have the unique key at the source. So that not the responsibility sits with us. But I think that is just valid for cell 1.0. For cell 2.0, I think that will change, but that is undefined. Dennis, you were adding something?
Yeah, maybe a small bit of context on how we will technically solve this one. So we have multiple databases. It will end up in separate GCP buckets, and then we consolidate it in a raw layer. So from Snowflake onwards, you don't see anymore that there are multiple cells, tenants, pipelines, etc.
Yeah, correct.
Then
In
it's-
that case, data will land in one schema. As we have as of now, nothing additional will be added except amount of the data. That is how I understand this.
Well, the
Sorry,
data amount of the data will also not be changing, right? Because let's say new customers of GitLab.com will go to the new tenant,
Yes.
which normally would have ended up in the regular one. So the data volumes will keep growing, of course, as they do regularly, but they are now divided over multiple, in this case, 2 cells, 2 instances, 2 tenants, 2 databases.
Yes. Yeah, it will grow linear as it's now, because actually in summary, it will be the same. Yeah. Sorry, Israel.
Well, I was gonna say, do you all do, just for my curiosity, do you all do that in flight, like in a piece of Python code or something in the script where you just kind of union them together at some point? Is that how that works? Or how does it work? Just more
Do
curious.
it in the Python code, so how the pipeline works right now, and please, Radovan, Vet and Radovan, correct me if I'm wrong. We extract the data from Postgres, load that to a flat file in GCP, and then that flat file loads into Snowflake. So what we will do, we have multiple buckets, so it ends up in multiple buckets, and it loads to Snowflake in the same table. So we have 2 user tables, database 1, database 2, 2 flat files, and flat file 1 goes into the user table in raw, flat file 2 goes also into the
Got it.
raw table in Snowflake.
And in the current situation,
oh, go ahead, Rob.
So just one addition. Actually, we're not dealing with the Python code. Python code is already prepared. We just change the YAML file with the specification. It's kind of declarative way what you want to do. Okay, from this table, pick up this column, and then our Python code will do the rest. But actually, we are just changing the YAML file mainly. Yeah.
Now the YAML file will be the same, hopefully, right? Because you don't want to have 2 YAML files. But I think now we go into all the details. But I think where Israel's question is, how do we consolidate?
Yes.
Yeah.
That in the pipeline. So you see in Snowflake just 1 user table.
It makes sense.
Yep.
Would that work for n number of different buckets and tenants? Or
That is where the tricky part is. So now we go from 1 tenant to 2. Maybe we go then also to 3 or 4, but there is a moment in time where we cannot handle that anymore, and then we have to shift completely to new architecture.
Architecture will be completely changed. What is good news? Each new tenant will be very small because it will be exclusively for 1 customer. In that case, you don't have huge amount of data. But as Danny said, it will be super difficult to scale because you just times it 250 times because that's the number of tables we have. And beyond that, Postgres pipeline change with the cell. We need to align with actually why we're here is automated series ping because we rely on Postgres pipeline. What we know now, and also what analytics instrumentalization team raised the question, Redis data is something they prepare on their side and just serve it to us in JSON key value pairs, as I mentioned. I think that will be fine. We just need to communicate properly with them, and they need to tell us how they will reorganize the data, or maybe something will be changed or not. It's up to them, and it's up to us to align based on the change. For SQL metrics and namespace metrics, it's a bit different because for SQL metrics, we receive key value pairs in Postgres. I don't think anything will be changed and impact will not be big, but we need to confirm with them. And for namespace metrics, as that said, it will be the same. Actually, 1 database for us, let's say in raw or purple layer with deduplication. I don't expect big impact. I just want to raise this with you, like, okay, let's align on this in case some additional work is needed, just to plan it up front rather than be very surprised, like, okay, we forgot on this. Just to include this and follow up on the cell 1.0 change for the Postgres pipeline. So this is just a follow up, and we're just following what's going on the source side, let's say.
Cool. And then Radovan, so for instance SQL metrics and namespace metrics, per advice from Ved, we probably will be okay. Want to keep an eye on it, but looks like for AE, your work, like that might. Okay, go ahead, Dennis. You were going to jump in.
Technically, I think namespace metrics I know for sure. Instance SQL metrics I don't know for sure. I think technically there are no changes needed, because namespace metrics executes a set of queries on top of the raw data. Well, because of the fact the raw data is not changing, those same namespace queries you can execute on top of that raw database or the web database. I'll leave that in the middle.
Yeah, that's correct statement.
One thing that I think we are not sure about, maybe Ved does know that, is that how does namespace relates to organizations? Because I think there's also somewhat of a business functional change included. And that's something I think also AEs have to double check.
Yeah. So that's not still clear. I think that will be the something which will organization is a new model introduced as well. I'm not sure you're aware, but it's just reiterating. So they have introduced a new model called organization, and under which the group and the projects will start coming in. So that will be the top module in the new world will be moved to cell 1.0, 1.0 onwards. At this point of time, it's not clear that how the data flows to each and every table, because we haven't seen the new data structure where how the organization ID is mapped to all the tables what we exported. So there might be a change, but I don't see the change in terms of our data, the data set what we get. It will be the same. We will have some additional attribute to identify that this row is for this particular organization using namespace project like that mapping, but that hierarchy is still not clear to us. And that's something will be where someone has to look into, but
what's
only
the
when they
timeline on that, Ved?
So timeline for this go live for cell 1.0 is Q2 end. That's what has been told. So the Q2 end is the one. Q1 we are expecting to get. So there are a few things which is unclear, like how many database instances they will keep. Will they keep 2 of them or will they keep 1? Where they will host it. So those are little unanswered question which has to be clarified as we make progress in this quarter. Once we have the answer of those questions, then we start pointing to one of the test instances, the pipelines. Basically, we create a test pipeline, and that's where you will be able to see that new data structure and all those things coming up in picture. So mostly in Q2, that will be the answers. We will be getting more of the answers on this, more clarification.
Yep. And I'm familiar with the organization work stream, but it was like last year still in like the design problem validation phase, but it sounds like they're well, I've been seeing updates for cells. So now it's like, all right, now it's kind of it's happening now.
Yes. So they decided to go with organization, and that's where this was last year, September, I had the update, and they were saying that they will add the second cell in like after 2-3 years. But within the 4 months, we came to know that they are adding this year itself. So things are wrapping up quite fast on their side. So organization will be coming up as a module altogether, and we might have to bring in those data as well. So there will be more addition of new tables, but that should not impact us.
Yep. Yeah, we definitely, that's going to be really important, and we'll get an analytics engineer on that for sure. And being able to test out and staging will be good, to help facilitate that. So, and then we'll definitely get the AE resource on it and prioritize that. Like these pipelines have been kind of, to me, these are like the highest priorities right now. Like these are like, if these things don't go well, like like just everything just kind of stops working that we built. So I've been kind of prioritizing this work and snowplow work. This is like top of the list. So we'll definitely be there with you on this.
And yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. I just want to add here, but please go on.
So is there one more question? Do you see the use of not at this point of time, but it will be good to know as the Q1 progress to understand that do you need that tenant ID concept that we need to identify that where is this row coming from? Is it coming from cell 1 or it is coming from cell 2? So those are the things which will not explicitly present that we have to incorporate in our pipeline to say that if you're running this query against this database, add this hard-coded metadata value to say that this is the tenant ID.
Yeah, I think it's organization ID is what we understood would be the field we need and care about, because essentially what the organization ID gives us, it gives us a way to identify the customer in GitLab.com.
Exactly. Yep.
And right now we, like you said, go print me off a list of all the groups and projects that belong to the customer equals GitLab. Like it would be like, we just have a hard time. There's no query you can write for that. But now with organization, we can do that. And then what it's going to allow us to do is connect the customer activity in GitLab with the billing activity, with the usage activity. And it's just going to give us a lot better analysis. So I don't know if organization and tenant are the same thing or not, but really it's organization ID from an analytics perspective.
Yeah, tenant ID here is more what we talk with, correct me if I'm wrong, is about technical stuff. From where or from which database the data is coming. Organization ID is something really important, vital for the business. But the question here was, do you need from the business perspective or your tenant ID? Because what Danny said here, this is maybe technically important for us to know from where some data is coming and track back, source of the data, and have the full lineage of the data rather than something for business. But the question here was, if I understand that, what I can doubt is there any business use case will ask for tenant ID for the physical or virtual machine from a database from the data is coming? We don't see probably usage.
Yep, I understand. Let me follow up on that from the business side, at least from our side, the pipeline side. It seems like just for troubleshooting and debugging, like, oh, we see something weird in the data, well, what tenant did it come from?
A or B,
yeah. At least for our point of view, that seems like a useful thing to know.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dennis' point as well. Dennis, you want to reiterate that, or shall I?
Oh, no, exactly. Yeah. So when we have an issue, I think it will make our life much easier when.
It will be used for debugging.
Debugging.
And maybe there can be a business question as well in the future, right? If they say, what is the usage of tenant A compared to tenant 2 or something like that? But let's include it. I think.
I bet engineering will have some use cases on it. Some performance indicators across the tenants to make sure that how they're performing. From a technical perspective.
I guess the same Israel. Exactly. That was our thinking. Okay, maybe engineering team will do that. Probably the more business-oriented teams will not handle that. But what Danny said make perfect sense.
Okay, good. Here. Yep. Let's do it.
So my bottom line
Radovan,
here is sorry.
I was going to say, the Redis metrics, and can we double click on Redis metrics and SQL metrics?
Yep. Okay.
So SQL metrics, Dennis mentioned he may not be sure of the impact, but let's double click on that. So how do we want to think about that, Radovan, the SQL metrics?
What Dennis said on the first scan, or what I can think, I can't see the big or any changes needed here. But let's keep an eye open for all three metrics with special, let's say, special double check on Redis and namespace. Redis, because it can come in probably maybe different format, maybe not. We need to communicate with the analytics instrumentalization team about this. And for namespace, all depends what Dennis asked here, and that can, let's say, track or inform us, or when you have any update, that please share with us. Then we can align the namespace metrics. Probably, I don't know how they will shape this with organization ID, but maybe we need to tweak a bit because we have 500, 600 queries, and with some fine replace, probably it will be more than sufficient. So that's my double check and 2 cents of this. For that reason, I create this cell one automated service ping adjustment for the data team issue, just to put the action points because I already connected with the original issue. And then we can track and keep eye on that and see what can be the, let's say, estimation for the work we need to check and to execute optionally in case something pop up.
Because Radovan, in that sense, the instance SQL metrics and the namespace metrics, those processes are somewhat the same, right? We have Postgres raw data, we execute a set of SQL,
Yep.
both for instance SQL metrics as well for namespace SQL metrics, The only way how those SQL commands are being generated, that's the difference between those two flows, right?
Exactly. Let's say the last mechanism, what we are doing is completely the same. We hit SQL on top of Snowflake Postgres pipeline, save results, and downstream analyze these results. As you said, there is the only difference is for SQL methods, we received prepared queries, transform them to Snowflake syntax, and executed them. For namespace, we have a static JSON file with, okay, this is the metrics and this is the query. Prepared and ready to be executed on Snowflake.
Because you want to roll that up on namespace level, and that requires an additional modification to the query.
Yes, exactly. So in this case, this is what I see as a potential action point for the data team Israel. Like, okay, keep eye on that, gather information once they pop up, and if we have any update, and based on that, we can create the, let's say, or estimate the work. But generally, we do not expect too much impact, but we need to keep eye out just to don't be surprised at the end.
Mm-hmm.
A question to Israel, Dennis, both. What all testing plan are we thinking of for Cell 1.0? Because as we see, it's touching a lot of components. It's touching namespace metrics. We are changing our pipeline. We are expecting to see lots of changing happening in the pipeline. Do we plan to do some setup, some testing a strategy for Q2 before it Cell 1.0 goes live, like testing automated service ping, everything is working good in that perspective? Because yeah, we keep our eye open, but it can slip as well because something other P1 can come in. So we put some roadmap for this in Q2 to test this whole thing because we'll have to test it.
Yeah, I think you have to break two things up, right? I think in Q1 we will do the technical iteration.
Yep.
That we are sure that we can technically load the data from the second cell, from
Yep.
the second tenant. That means that we have to test it out on Airflow level. Can we scale it out with an additional 300 tasks? Do we have that room of flexibility? And then we need to start validating and also work together with the team over there. What does this mean in terms of business impact? Are data structures changing? Validated primary keys are indeed not duplicated. Do we need to have organization ID involved and stuff like that? And I think there indeed we have to have a subject matter expert on the data involved. And I'm looking to Israel to start validating that. But I would say let's do that in Q2. Take the room time in Q1 to do it technically, and then start moving to the validation part and make any necessary adjustments. Because I think also in Q2 we will have more visibility on the data than we have right now with all those unknown unknowns.
Thanks, Dennis, for answering that.
Yeah, and I agree. In Q2, like, yeah, we run everything. We test it all in the staging environment, including these automated service pings, plus like all the other tables too. I think it would be worth the time and the expense to make sure it's right and we're not surprised by anything. And maybe we could sample data. We don't need to run everything, but we have a way to sample some DBT model lineage data. So that might help to kind of make it go a little faster.
Yeah. Because we need this, because this is just the beginning of cells 1.0. We will be having more coming up. So we should have some strategy in place that as they keep adding, we are also able to test it much more faster and be happy that, yeah, nothing breaks from our side and we are good. So Q2 is good. And then in Q2, we also put the roadmap for Cell 2.0 for testing, because we don't know what all will change in Cell 2.0.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Ved, we would have in Q2, we would have like staging data and some staging tables.
I'm expecting it.
Okay, good.
I'm expecting it. I'm already having, so I've set up a bi-weekly call with Nick, who is engaging with us from the sales team. And one of the SRE is Steve, and Dennis is there. So I put it bi-weekly now. Today only I've set it up. So we'll meet every 2-week Friday or Sunday to determine where we are. So we'll get more insight with the
Good.
sync call. And I'm keeping tab on Cell 1.0 Slack channel. So anything comes forward.
Perfect.
Just one question from my side to conclude this meeting. Thanks a lot for great inputs. How not to lose visibility on automated service ping testing or implementation, or keep an eye open on this? Because I create this issue. Dennis, can I tag you in this issue, or can we put it somewhere just to don't lose track? Because it's already connected with the original one. I just want to be sure how things are moving forward with Postgres pipeline change for Cell project. We'll be able to gather more information and test everything regarding automated service ping, and later on to check the impact, as Israel said here, including R&D team, analytics engineer. How not to lose visibility on this?
Shall I suggest one thing? You
Sure.
can tag this issue to the KR, which I'm doing for Cell 1.0, because this will be one of the things. So
Yep.
if we are moving to Q2 with the KR, this issue is also moving along with that.
Yeah, it will be there.
So it will be there. So we are not losing, and that will be on the radar of that. This has to be done in order to give a sign off for Cell 1.0, right? So that way we can put it with the KR and it flows with the OKR from this quarter to next quarter based on that. And in the mid, keep get answers from Basti on Redis metrics as well, because if they say that they will send multiple files or things like that, changes from
We
their
need to
side, then
adjust
we need to modify our pipeline. So
Yes.
there might be work in Q1 for that as well. So let's put it there, and then from there I can keep asking you that, do you have an update? Meanwhile, if I get any update, I update the issue.
Yeah, it will be easier to communicate. I'm just concerned, like, okay, do not lose track and visibility of this. Thanks, Israel. I will put this and park it in Q2 in this Google Sheet to share with me, and also whether I will assign it to your carrier working this quarter. So actually, we can easily.
I can tag Dennis Israel on all in this. Already, I think Israel is tagged on that issue.
Yep.
But let's tag Dennis as well. So
Yep.
we all will have a visibility on this.
Yep. I feel like it would, we'll see how we frame it in Q2, but it's like the automated service ping may merit its own key result. And then for testing, I don't know, that's more like housekeeping, but at least we have it in that file, and it's not, you know what I mean? And we
are not losing in the backlog. That's why
put it there.
That's the main question. Yes.
Thanks a lot,
I think
folks.